Dr. Chris Labos, cardiologist with a degree in epidemiology and a regular contributor here on CJAD. And by the way, you can catch him Sunday on Weekends with Joanne Vrakas at 7:20. Is with us this afternoon. Chris, welcome back. Thanks for coming on. And let me begin. I saw this story yesterday literally everywhere on social media, which made my first reaction, hey, I wonder if this is true. So I want to make sure that, we're on top of this story because, as I said in the tease here, this would be a remarkable breakthrough. New study with a potential cure for pancreatic cancer. So tell us more.
Well, right. So here's the thing. Pancreatic cancer, one of the most fatal cancers that's out there because there isn't really a good therapeutic option. There are obviously, there are things you can do in terms of chemotherapy, but the survival rate is quite low. So any new advancement is potentially very, very efficacious. This current study that was published was showing that when you use a combination of 3 drugs that are all part of the RAS inhibitors, this is this new class of cancer therapies that you might have heard about. They are sort of relatively new. They are not that successful because part of the problem is that the cancers tend to develop a resistance against these therapies. And what this current study did was it showed that when you use 3 different RAS inhibitors that work at different stages of the genetic pathway, you get a much better result. You can induce remission in pancreatic cancer. So very, very sort of encouraging results. The one caveat, this was an animal study. This was not actually done in humans. So Not everything that happens in animals can happen in humans, but it is sort of an interesting proof of concept that the main limitation to RAS inhibitors, which has been resistance, could potentially be overcome by using a combination of therapies together.
So maybe it's an unfair question to ask, but so you take this and, the idea, again, it's a study in animals, not in humans. We attach a timeline when something like this happens. Is it a matter of years before we see something like this actually be proven?
Yeah, it is. What most people don't understand about scientific research, it's not the doing the study that takes a long time. It's getting the funding. It's organizing the study. It's recruiting patients. So a lot of scientific research is weirdly bureaucratic. So if you and I today decided that we wanted to launch a study to do this, the first thing we would need to do is get money. And so you have to apply for grants from the government. They do these grant applications a couple of times per year. So even if we were successful the first time out, which is rare, it would take us maybe about a year to actually get the money. Then we would have to start the trial. It would take us maybe 2 or 3 years to recruit enough patients because there's not that many patient volunteers out there, and there's not that many cases of pancreatic cancer. So because of all the steps that are involved, by the time we actually got enough patients and gave them the medication and waited to see if there would be an effect, it would probably take like 5 to 10 years to actually do a large enough study to actually prove that there was in fact a benefit.
So now I would think that a large, pharmaceutical company of some kind looks at a study like this and says, okay, there's something here. It's worth spending, obviously, the money. And is that you imagine what would happen next?
Yeah, probably. There's 2 main sources of funding. There's government funding and then there's private industry. Certainly if you could establish a benefit for pancreatic cancer, that would obviously be, very profitable for the pharmaceutical company. So there's certainly an interest there. It's always harder to get companies interested in diseases that are less common because there's just less applicability to them. So pancreatic cancer, you do see it, but it is one of the rare cancers that are out there. So it's always a little bit harder to entice the pharmaceutical companies to pour money into it with no sort of guarantee of a return on investment. That's where sort of government funding tends to be the more reliable source because you remove that commercial aspect of it. The problem is that when the government is cutting budgets, scientific funding tends to be one of the first things to go.
I wonder, too, we heard a story a couple of weeks ago, I think we might have talked about this as well, where there are certain cancers now more prevalent in younger people than we've ever seen them before. I'm not sure if pancreatic cancer falls into that list, but did we talk about, when you see something like that and a larger segment of the population who were previously untouched by cancer are now succumbing to this, you kind of wonder, is there, because not enough research is being done, why would this be happening?
So the cancer in general thing is interesting. It's primarily being driven, it seems to be mostly in sort of gastrointestinal cancers, and it tends to be more of a global phenomenon, not us here in Canada. And there is some suggestion that the shifting diets in the developing world and the increasing rates of smoking are contributing to that as well. So A lot of cancers are environment related. So, how we eat, how we, live our daily lives, the fact that we're more sedentary, all of that is playing a role. But you're seeing sort of an outsized impact of it in the developing world where, the screening and prevention programs are not as developed as they are here as well. So it's certainly a consideration here in Canada. And of course, this ties in with a report that just came out today where they say about 8 out of 10 Canadians do not eat enough fruits and vegetables. And this is Canada where we have, more than enough resources. So we are not great at eating healthy diets. We're becoming a little bit more lax about it. Overall, cancer rates are down in this country because we smoke less. But that good is sort of masking the fact that we are not great about, our active lifestyle and eating healthy. We tend to do not so well on those things.
We'll leave it at that. Chris, appreciate your time as always. Thanks so much.
My pleasure. Take care.
I'm Dylan Playfair.
And I'm Tyler Smith.
We're putting loneliness in the penalty box by talking to some of our favorite athletes about the importance of friendship.
This is Bromance.
Bromance is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers, proudly Canadian-owned and operated. Charm has been part of your love stories and bromances for over 50 years. And you can find Bromance on the iHeartRadio network or wherever you get your podcasts.